Dr. Stokes, we're here sitting with you today in one of the gyms of the Gary Community School Corporation, the West Side Theater inside of the beautiful West Side Leadership Academy, which is a shining light for the city of Gary. And we're here with you today to share you with the rest of Northwest Indiana. And I want to tell you, before we speak about your new role as the superintendent for the Gary Community School Corporation, I started to ask a few community members about you, what they knew about you. And a little birdie gave me a few facts, and I want you to tell me if they're true and then share more about you.
Okay.
So I learned that you come from a very large, really close-knit family.
I do.
I learned that you are one of many, many girls on both sides of your family, which is so interesting. But another thing that I learned, and I heard a little bit of it before the start of our conversation, is that you have a beautiful singing voice. So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, I am, of course, Yvonne Stokes at home.
Okay.
But at school, of course, I'm Dr. Stokes. I have 3 wonderful children, one who is recently deceased, and they keep me hopping. I am a sibling to now 6 others. I did have a brother who passed away some time ago as well, but we are a female-dominated family. My sisters, I'm so proud of them. As you know, my sister Sharon is the mayor for Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Wow, how exciting.
I know,
Wow.
first African-American mayor. I also have siblings that live in Mississippi and Tennessee and around that area. Ironically, they're all into the sciences. One is a doctor, 2 are pharmacists. As well, I have a sister who's like in restaurant hotel management, and a sister who is a CPA who lives in Virginia. So suffice to say, I think we have a lot of backgrounds covered.
Yes.
And I might add that my daughter is actually a doctor of pharmacy as well, so she took on the science side.
Wow, you come from a very large, again, obviously a large family, but quite accomplished family, and that is just so exciting to hear it. And so I was joking with you offline. I'm pretty sure at family gatherings, you guys are kind of like, hey, I'm this, I'm that, call me Dr. So-and-so. But I think that is just so beautiful that your family is just so versed in so many industries, and you represent across so many industries and across the country. That's actually quite exciting.
My mom keeps us grounded. She is truly the lead of our family. So my mom lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and of course my dad lives in Clarksdale, Mississippi. So, but she keeps us grounded and humble.
That's good. That's good. You still have to wash the dishes when you go back to
You
visit.
better believe it, and what she says goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Dr. Stokes, I want to begin to talk about your position that you have now with the Gary Community School Corporation. So you were newly selected by the appointed Gary Community School Board as superintendent earlier this summer. July 1st was actually the first day of your start, the official start date. And I must say that your presence marks a new era for the Gary Community School Corporation, the school district as a whole, as well as for the city of Gary, let's just be honest. Now, before we talk about your role as the top administrator for the school district, I want you to share with the region, because a lot of people are not familiar with you, your career in education, your vast career, I might add, in education.
So, you know, honestly, my career probably started as a child growing up when you think about education. I grew up as what I call a city country girl. I often say that. In the city, I grew up with my mother and my stepfather. And in the country, I grew up with my father and my stepmother. It's important to know that my mom was a professional seamstress, so I learned a lot about home ec and sewing and things of that nature. And my stepdad was a journeyman. Of course, my real father was a dean of a university, Clarksdale, Mississippi. And before that, he was a zoology professor. And my stepmother was a teacher for students with special needs. All of that is important because as I grew up, I got to see students with special needs when I would visit with my stepmom in her classroom. And then my mother, we grew up with students who were in foster care. My mother always had foster care children, so we always grew up with other students. All of that became a catalyst for who I am and my love. But I think most importantly, it's important to know that I grew up with the roots in religion. So we grew up as children who served the Lord, if you will. So that has a lot to do with who I am. I grew up singing in church. So what you say about singing is probably just just more natural for me. And I used to feel like it was boasting if I say it was a God-gift talent, but it is. You know, God gives us talents, and that's one. So that being said, when I went on to college, I went to college to be a speech and audiologist, and I did work as a speech therapist for a while with the state of Indiana. But then I transitioned into teaching, like so many of us do, because I found that my reach could touch more. And so I went on to teach, and then moved on to get what we call a director's license in special ed. So I taught special ed. I was the director of special ed. I have been a curriculum director. I've been a department head. I've been an assistant superintendent. I've been a academic improvement officer, and I've been now superintendent in 2 different districts.
Absolutely. So suffice to say, for some of those that were at the start of hearing your name, that you would be the new superintendent for the Gary Community School Corporation, suffice to say you're well equipped, well qualified for this role. That is just so exciting to hear your vast career in education. Now, again, you started your term as superintendent for the Gary Community School Corporation following the end of the 7-year state takeover of the district and its return to local control. Many parents, students, and community members throughout the region, again, throughout Northwest Indiana, are unfamiliar with you outside of, let's just say, the Munster School.
School town of Munster.
Right. Yes. So I want you to take a moment to share with the region your plans for this school district.
So, you know, when you talk about my plans for the school district, they're multifolded plans that involve the support of the community.
Right.
Our students, our staff, and our school board. And I say that because, you know, as much as we want things to change, you know, I have this saying that it takes you, it takes me, it takes all of us. Right. And the truth is it does, because we can envision what we want our students to know, understand, and be able to deliver upon during their time pre-K 12 with us or beyond, and then once they go out into the community. But one of my major goals, you know, and you've probably heard me talk about it before, is that our students not just live for the future, but they live for now. And living for now means that we need to support them with the academic gains that they need to make for teaching and learning and just for survival in the environment now. But we also need to prepare them for life beyond K-12 education. And when I talk about that, you know, we often talk about Indiana academic standards, but there is more than just Indiana academic standards. We as a community have things that we want our students to be able to know, do, and be able to support. For example, one of my key things that I want students to be able to do is to understand how to disagree, to agree to disagree, how to show up and not use violence or negative words as a way to show that you're not agreeing with something.
That's interesting.
And those are things that I think a lot of the folks in our community want, not just for our kids, but for our adults as well. So with that being said, I have those things that I want to happen now, and those priorities for me deal with academics, first and foremost, making sure that our students have the skill sets that they need, with literacy being the focus. We need to make sure that our students can read. We know that reading is a key to being free in society. So academics at the forefront, but then also we have to be financially stable. As you just shared, we came off of 7 years of takeover, and it was financially based. So we want to make sure that we keep our finances where they need to be. We also want to be able to make sure we build that bridge and have a good relationship with our community. I often hear people talk about how they're not allowed in the schools. We want people to be able to come into our schools, but we have to remind our community that at the time when perhaps they were not allowed, like maybe during COVID or what have you, that now we're under a different support, and we do want our community to come into our schools, but we have to make sure that we come in the right way. You know, we have to make sure that, you know, we do our visits like they should be, that we have our security checks. We have to keep our students safe. We have to keep our visitors safe. And we also have to understand that this is a learning environment. We want to keep the main thing, teaching and learning.
That is awesome. That is so awesome, and it's so awesome that you're opening up the doors for the community, because there was that concern from some community members. So that is so awesome that you are open and transparent even in the early days of your leadership. I think that is so awesome. Now, I want to say this. So when I think of a superintendent, these are just me, my thoughts. Several adjectives come to mind. Ethical, consistent, innovative, and for me, last but certainly not least, collaborative. And you spoke a minute ago about those bridges that you're trying to build being collaborative. Now, speaking of being collaborative, I want to shift our conversation for a few minutes and have you share how you are building your team, because again, you're new.
So it has been said that anything that's worthwhile is worth the journey. And it has been a journey. I will tell you that. I am strategic in who I select to be a part of the team. I want to look at what not only they bring to the table, but what is their previous track record. Sometimes things that you've done speak to what you may do in the future. Now, that's not to say that we don't grow and change. I like to think that we all do. We all learn, we all grow, and we all change. Right. But with that being said, we've cast the net as wide as we can cast it so that we can have applicants who are willing to come and support Gary. But I don't want to just take anybody to support Gary. I want people who are strategic in their planning, who love Gary and love our children, people who are willing to support us where we are and help move us forward. I have selected an awesome team, and I will tell you that I have a new chief academic officer who was just board approved, and we will share more about her background at the next board meeting. Okay. She wasn't at our previous board meeting because she was actually in North Carolina accepting an award.
Oh, wow.
But she will be at our next board meeting, or at least that's my plan. Okay. And we will learn a little bit about her. So I can't say the name of the chief academic officer, but as you know, I've brought on Yvonne Stokes. She's our chief human and resource officer. We also have Linda Zaborowski. I know the names. And Linda is our chief financial officer. We brought on Deetta Wright, and Deetta Wright is our chief operations officer. And the chief academic officer will be coming on soon. And as many people know, the wonderful, fabulous Miss Chelsea Whittington is our interim chief of public and community relations.
Absolutely.
And we have an interim, Mavis Nelson is our interim for our chief academic officer until she starts.
Absolutely, and she's done all of the names. I have done my homework, done my research, and I know that everyone that you have a part of your team, which is why I wanted you to share about your team, are already doing phenomenal things. I want to continue to talk about communication for just a moment. So let's talk about your vision again for the Gary Community School Corporation. As I've said probably 2 or 3 times in our short conversation right now, that you literally hit the ground running, and you've already implemented new programs, processes, and again, you have built relationships in the school buildings, but also in the Gary community itself, which is so powerful. And I feel as if you are forming a new bridge of communication. We were speaking about Chelsea and the wonderful work that she does with your communication via the press releases, be it your social media and all of the other media things that she does as well. Now, but I want to talk about something that I found so interesting when I took a look at your website, and I believe someone in the community shared this with me as well. You have a program called FACE. So explain with our listening and viewing audience what that is, but not only what that is, how it's transforming education both inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom.
So first of all, FACE stands for Family and Community Engagement. And essentially, we have a team of wonderful support leaders who it's their responsibility to do just that, engage our families in their prospective schools. Okay. So we have a leader who basically oversees the programming, as well as she supports our McKinley-Vento information. And so basically, if students or parents have a need, like they're homeless, or they need food, or they need information or help and assistance with getting them to medical care, they help with those types of things. So it's the whole community support, because as we know, if you're hungry, if you need medical care, you know, if you don't have housing, those kind of things impact the actual classroom, because you might not show up. Absolutely. So FACE's responsibility is essentially to meet the needs or help our community, our parents and our students meet whatever barriers there are that are impacting negative attendance. And so they do a great job at that.
And how has that program been received by the community?
You know what? I would say that we're just now doing a survey with our staff, but I would say with the community, I'm sure that those who know of it, because with anything, it's always the whole messaging, but those who know of it will probably say that it's a value add. I've watched parents as they actually come boots on the ground to pick up bags of grocery or things that we provide for them.
Wow, absolutely. Something else that I learned regarding going back to in the classroom and transforming the classroom is the way in which everyone is teaching the same way. And then also helping parents. And so that if a lesson is being taught, 2 + 2 = 4 is being taught in the classroom, it's not being taught differently at this school and that school. And so when the student comes home with the parent is also able to say 2 + 2 = 4. Talk a little bit more about that.
So that is a catalyst, teaching the main thing consistently, because, I tell the story about how when we grew up as children, or at least when I grew up, my teacher might teach me one way in school, and then I'd go home and my grandma would say things like, just go next door and borrow an egg. We're doing math and you're telling me to go next door and borrow an egg, and I'm like, okay, grandma. The one thing that we want to be consistent on, and I'm going to be as transparent as I can. I can't tell you it's 100% happening in every building, but it is our expectation. The one thing that we're trying to be consistent on is that we use the vocabulary that students will see when it's time to be assessed on their skills. We don't want to be saying go next door and borrow an egg. If you're rounding or, whatever you're doing, inter-rater reliability type work needs to occur to make sure that we're speaking the language that children will have to hold and own when it's time to be assessed. And we expect every teacher to be doing that so our students understand, what they're expected to do. And when they have to be assessed at the end of the year, when it's assessment time, it won't be language that they've not seen.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. I want to go back to communication because this thought just came to mind to me as a member of the media that covers school districts, that covers different municipalities and all of that. I can't help but note this concerted effort again to ensure that everyone stays connected with the Gary Community School Corporation through, again, various communication channels, balancing both visibility as well as accessibility. And I want you to talk a little bit more about why it's important for the district website to be rebranded, to be revamped, because that's so important.
Well, first of all, we like to get feedback on the website because you can have information, but if you can't find it, then it's like not having information. And we've had some feedback that even now there are some things maybe that we can put in the forefront or tweak. That's always the opinion of whoever's looking at the website. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the website is, one, visually inviting aesthetically, and two, that you can find the information that you need. I'm sure that when you look at the website now and look at the website versus how it used to be, that you see a large change.
Absolutely.
So we will continue to upgrade the website, and a lot of that website work is from Crystal O'Brien. She has done a great job in kind of supporting our website, so I want to give a shout out to her. But at the end of the day, collectively, it's all of our responsibility to make sure that information is on the website and that people can find it.
Absolutely. I will attest to the fact that it is refreshed, it is clean, it is pretty intuitive in comparison to the website of the past. I mean, it was so easy for me to find all of the information that I needed in preparation, even for our conversation today. Doing a wonderful job. Dr. Stokes, I want to talk about early wins because you have had a lot. So we're just a few weeks into the 2024-2025 school year. And again, you've had so many early wins, but they may not be recognizable outside of the city of Gary. They may not be recognizable throughout the region. And so I want to have you speak about some of the early wins. And I want to note one that I think was just so phenomenal. And it happened just a couple of weeks ago. That was the demolition of Norton Elementary School, which was the site, sadly, of a tragic event. So again, take a moment to just kind of high level some of the early wins for you.
So that is definitely an early win, actually more so for the community.
Right.
Because, we did a survey maybe a year or so ago, and that was one of the top sites, that came out in the survey of an area that they wanted to basically be demolition. And so that was a win for the community and more importantly for that family. Mm-hmm. So I know what it's like to have loss, and for that family to be able to put to rest that sight, I think, and witness it was really a win for them. But other wins that we've had, we had a great opening day with our teachers. We had a speaker who talked about, supports for students, and that's always important that we start our year off like that. With our administrative staff, we had a great professional development. We talked about archetypes, and archetypes are always really important. I'm a big archetype girl. How you show up, always be cognizant of how you show up. People say that I'm a warrior, so I have to balance my strength side and my shadow side of being a warrior to make sure that I show up for children and staff on every day. We've had other wins that are some behind the scenes type wins that deal with finances. And what I'll say about that is, for example, we've been working with vendors and various contractors to make sure that we inspect what we expect and make sure that our money is flowing right. I consider those wins. We've had wins with our staff. We in fact, today they're doing a substitute blitz. I don't know if you saw that. And they've already, when I left, they said they had about 3 subs that we were bringing on forward. That's important when you're a teacher. You got to have some substitute teachers.
Absolutely.
So those are wins. Just the overall feel and what I would call culture, we see that it's improving. Not that it was ever bad. I don't want anybody to think that.
No, but we
just
feel a shift.
We feel a shift in the culture. Of course, one of the things that I want to do that we're trying to figure out now, and I've said something to our union rep, is we want to set a time where we can have what we call district discussion. I know discussion is not required by Indiana Code, but I think it's important that we be able to hear the voices of our teachers. So we're trying to set that up. We've started with the policies, which is a win. We are literally building the plane while we're flying it. So when I came in, we have no policies. So we have to get all the policies set. And we've had some wins with the policies. We bring a flutter of policies to every board meeting. So those are just some of the wins to say the truth about it. But I think the most important wins for me personally is that I am absolutely loving my school board. I'm getting to know them. They are great leaders and respected in their fields. And that I'm also getting to know staff members and community. And I have a great, great, great working relationship with our mayor.
That is so awesome, because you don't hear that from other superintendents, the relationship with not only the leader of the community, the mayor, but also the school board. Oftentimes you hear little contention, so that is so awesome.
I don't want that.
No, absolutely, because at the end of the day, it's about the child.
It is.
Or the children.
Keep students first.
Absolutely. I want to spend a minute or so speaking about enrollment, right? So according to the Indiana Department of Education's latest numbers, only 35.4% of Gary students are enrolled in the district. But I want to say this. This is not an issue that is unique to the Gary Community School Corporation, contrary to popular opinion. In recent years, there has been a steady decline in enrollment at public schools across the country, and in part because of alternatives like private education, as well as charter schools and virtual schools as well. Now, I want you to talk about enrollment because, as we know, enrollment impacts not only staffing, but it also impacts funding. So spend a moment speaking about what you're doing to engage or re-engage the community to increase student enrollment and engagement.
So I have to give credit to the powers that were in place before I came. I know that they had done some work, and Ms. Whittington supported with trying to message Gary Community Schools in a positive light. And what I mean by in a positive light is, here's what we're able to support in our school district. We have the career and technical education programming for which we support our high school students as well as other students who are in these, as you say, charters or other schools.
Right.
We've got great sports. We're sitting in the Guild. We've got wonderful arts and things of that are going on in our district. But more importantly, the thing that we are trying to message is that we are a community of believers and supporters who believe in engaging the whole child. We realize that parents send us their best children every day. And sometimes it may not be the child who's showing up who is following our rules and processes and procedures, but we do believe that we can support the student, the staff, and our community in helping our children understand how we can play well in the sandbox, as I call it, with the focus of learning. You know, this is an educational facility. So first and foremost, while sports is important, we're here first so that you can learn academically. But with that being said, one of the things that we are trying to do is to support our students in their needs, meet them where they are. And sometimes to the community, it may look like we're not meeting their needs, but we've got varied needs for all students. There's no one size fits all.
Right.
It is important that we have enrollment, and for all of the things that I've shared, without enrollment, you don't have funding. As you know, in the state of Indiana, the funding is different for each area, but it follows the child. I will say we probably get somewhere around $9,000 some odd for our children,
student.
and that can change per student. You also have what's called complexity, so you get additional funding sources for students who might have individualized education programming, things of that nature. You get money for CTE, you get money for things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I often say that it takes upwards of $100,000 or more to support a teacher, because you've got to have their salary,
right,
but you also have to pay their benefits, pay into benefits.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I want to ask you, hopefully you'll be able to answer this question. What are the challenges or areas of improvement needed for the district over the next 2, 3, and even 5 years?
Well, you know, if I had to list the top 2, definitely facilities.
Okay.
It's a challenge. You know, we've got maintenance that has, not because of lack of wanting to support, but because of lack of funding. We've had maintenance issues or concerns that need to be addressed. That's a major, is our facilities. I would love to just be able to just, if I could have a wish list and I could have anything I want, I'd build all new facilities.
Wow.
You know, that would be just a wish list. But, you know, I'm appreciative of what we have, and it's my job to take care of what we have. So I want to say that. But facilities is number 1. I would think that the next on my list would be the actual teaching and learning, which involves the students and the staff. Making sure that we give professional development to our teachers, and making sure that we can attract highly qualified teachers. I hear often about, you know, licensing for teachers. There are different types of licenses. We have several teachers that are on what we call emergency permits, and they're working their way toward what we call highly qualified licensing. But that is a challenge in a district when you have a lot of people who you're supporting on emergency permits, because it draws more on the principals, it draws more on central office leadership. So teachers would be the second, and third would be just making sure that our students understand, you know, how we want them to be able to access their environment, and that they actually have access and opportunity to rigorous courses.
Absolutely. So I gave you a moment to share about improvements, but I want to talk about what's good. What's good about the Gary Community School Corporation?
You know,
the horn of your school district.
The one thing that I think is just outstanding. First of all, when I came in, when I tell you people have a misnomer about Gary Community Schools, they don't know what they're talking about it when they talk negatively about this school district. There are some wonderful people who work in this district. There are wonderful people in this community who care about children, and we have some of the brightest children. I like to call them scholars, but we've got some bright scholars walking through this building. Let me be clear, walking through every building, and beautiful. And so I'd say one of the wonderful things about Gary Community Schools is we absolutely love our children. And it is my hope and desire to support our staff to make sure that they love their jobs also.
Right. Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
we have wonderful, wonderful student staff and wonderful parents, and wonderful community here.
Okay, Dr. Stokes, we have about a minute left, and I want to pivot and come back to you. So we started speaking about your vast career in education, right? And you've been in many, many districts, serving in many, many capacities. And I want you to share with our listening audience as we close, what are some lessons that you've learned at each school district that you have brought back to the Gary Community School Corporation?
Well, one thing that I have truly learned is that it doesn't matter if you are in urban, suburban, rural, and I've worked in all. At the end of the day, we all want to show up and show out for children. That's one lesson that I've learned. But I would say a hard lesson, if I dare, that I've learned is that at the end of the day, you have to be who you're called to be. You can't be anybody but who you're called to be. And, you know, rather it's politics or religion or, you know, identity that shows up, be you and do what's best for children.
Absolutely. Dr. Stokes, I know that you are a woman in demand, and I know you have to go to your next meeting even right now. So I thank you for carving out time, spending with us on Lakeshore Public Media. We wish you success with the Geary Community School Corporation, and I'm sure that in about a year or so, we'll be back with our cameras to see more about what's good for the Geary Community School Corporation.
I'm going to hold you to that.
We will be back. But again, thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.